Thank you. So now I have the privilege to introduce Mrs. Geeta. I've taken this blurb off the internet, so I'm sure she's heard this a few times when she goes to give a speech, but she's here to share experiences that she's had with Swami. And for the benefit of the audience, I'll just give you a little bit of a background about Mrs. Geeta Ram. Mrs. Geeta comes from a family which has been associated with Swami for the last 4 generations. She's the daughter of Dr. Padmanabhan, an ardent devotee and familiar figure in Vrindavan, that is Swami's ashram in Bangalore. Her great-grandfather, Mr. Seshagiri Rao, came to Swami in 1943 and was the temple priest of Prashanti Nilayam for many years. Having come to Swami at a very tender age, Mrs. Geeta's life is full of wonderful Sai experiences, which she will very lovingly share with us tonight. I'm really excited to hear it, and I hope you are too. And let's please give Mrs. Geeta a warm welcome. A big round of applause for the privilege.
Mukam karoti vachalam panghum langai tegrim yat krupatamaham vande paramananda madhavam. My loving pranams at the feet of our ever-present Swami. Sai Ram to all of you brothers and sisters in Malaysia. Thank you for having me here to share this wonderful 2-day, 3-day conference with all of you. I'm very happy to be with all of you here, and I'm enjoying the wonderful smiling hospitality of you loving Malaysians over here. Thank you so much for having me here. If you cannot see me and I sound like I'm coming an Asharira Vani from somewhere, please let me know and I can move to the side. I generally don't stand behind rostrums. As you can see, I'm a very, very tall person and the rostrums are never enough. I should start off probably telling you a very humorous experience that I had along with Swami on this particular thing called the rostrum or the podium. Thank you, sister, who introduced me very lovingly. Thank you so much. As she said, I have been a problematic, troublesome child for Swami since the day I was born, and he continues to lovingly look the other way like many loving mothers do. So what happened was during his 80th birthday, just before his 80th birthday celebrations, I had gone to India in June. I'm a teacher, I teach kindergarten, and so I'm always off in the summer. And I always went to Parthi or Vrindavan, wherever Swami was in the summer vacation, during my summer vacation with my sons and my husband. And that particular year of his 80th birthday, I for many, many years, I had not attended Swami's birthday celebrations or any of the celebrations that happened in Prashanti, except for Guru Purnima, because that always happens in June, July, and I'm there. But the other programs, I somehow never went, because as a child, all of our focus used to be so much on Swami, and somehow as the years went by, I had felt that there was so much of my focus on all of the music or the dramas or the other programs. So I felt that I wanted to go when Swami was in a quieter time frame. So anyway, that June I went to Bangalore, and Swami was in Bangalore that year. And as soon as I arrived in Bangalore, I am from Bangalore city. My parents and my in-laws and everyone are from Bangalore. I went to Vrindavan to see Swami the morning that I had landed from the US. I live in Washington, DC. And And as soon as I arrived in Vrindavan, Swami actually called me in for an interview. And he chatted very sweetly to my boys and asked them what they were doing. And in the middle of the conversation, he looked at me and said, "Are you coming for my birthday?" He said. So I had not gone for his birthday since his 63rd birthday. So I didn't want to say, "No, I'm not coming." So I said, "If you want me to come, Swami, I will come." So he said, "If you come, it will make me very happy." So I said, "All right then, Swami, I will come." So now this was a little bit of a challenge for me because Swami's birthday is in the middle of November and it is right in the middle of our teaching year, and it's very difficult to take time off at that time. And I would have had to find a substitute to take over my class for the 2 or 3 weeks that I will have to go to India. So I went back after my summer vacation in Puttaparthi and Bangalore and went to my director in the school and said, "Look, I know I have been working in that school for 15 years, so and she knows that I usually go to India in the summer, and I told her, look, this year I have to go in November to India. Do you think I'd be able to take at least a week off at that time?" And she said, "Oh, you know our policy during the time of November, December, just before Christmas, we don't really like to have any of the teachers take off. It might be difficult." So I said, "Well, I'm telling you well in advance. It's still July. The school starts in September. We start schools in September there." So I said, "Then I may not be able to come back to work. I'll have to resign, but I will take this year off and come back next year if you still need me." So she was a little shocked and she said, "You're going to resign your job because I'm not going to give you a week off for India?" I said, "Well, there are personal reasons and I have to go, and I know it's difficult for you." So, and then she said, "Let me talk it over with the other directors and get back to you." And they said, "No, you can take 2 weeks off. You can go to India." So I said, "All right, Swami, thank you. I guess you really want to see me in your birthday." So I went back for Swami's birthday, and I went the day before the Ladies' Day program on the 17th. I arrived in Puttaparthi on 17th night. And as soon as I arrived in our room there, the next door, our neighbor, we have, Swami has gifted a room to my parents in his 50th birthday. So we all stay. It's a small little room, but we've never moved out of there because it was such a loving gift from Swami. So she came and said, the Sevadhan people have been coming and asking, has Dr. Padmanabhan's daughter arrived? They've been coming on and off. Looks like some of the organizers want to speak to you. Excuse me. Want to speak to you, why don't you go over there and meet them? So I went and met them and I said, why would I had a package for the hospital, so I thought maybe that's why they were looking for me. I went there and Chaitanya Raju, who was organizing the Ladies' Day program, met me. And I said, here's the package. I'm sorry, I just arrived tonight. I believe you've been sending word for me. She said, no, it wasn't anything to do with the package. She said, I just wanted to tell you that you'll be speaking, day after tomorrow morning. Not day after tomorrow morning. This was on 18th night. Tomorrow morning, she said. So I thought, maybe they're asking me to speak about the Punjabi canteen or something. Sometimes they have people, they've had me speak there once or twice. So I thought, what time do you want me to speak? Because tomorrow the function is there, the Ladies' Day function. When am I supposed to go and speak there? So she said, no, tomorrow morning. So I said, tomorrow morning I want to attend the function. When, you mean after darshan? She said, no, tomorrow morning for the Ladies' Day function. I said, where am I supposed to speak for the ladies? I didn't even link it to this talk for Swami's Ladies' Day. So I said, where do you want me to speak? She said, Geeta, why are you acting so slow? Tomorrow morning, you're one of the ladies to speak for the Ladies' Day program in the Sai Kulvan. I said, no, I'm not speaking in Sai Kulvan. She said, yes, you are. We had a list of names and your name wasn't on the list. And Swami said, where is Geeta's name? And I didn't have it, so he said, I've already told her in June to come for my birthday, so tell her to speak. So these poor people, they didn't have my US number and they tried to contact my parents who were traveling, couldn't get hold of them, and they couldn't get hold of me to let me know ahead of time. So she had been sending a Sevadhan person to our room every day to see if I had arrived from the US. And every day Swami would ask her, did you tell her that she's speaking? And she would say, no Swami, she hasn't come yet. So finally, when I arrived, they told me that I was speaking to her. And I was completely nervous And I said, look, I'm not going to speak tomorrow. I had not mentally prepared for this, to speak in front of so many people. It was Swami's 80th birthday. So she said, you know, Swami has already picked your name. I said, just tell Swami I haven't come this year also. So she said, how can we tell Swami? Swami has retired for the evening. You're going to speak tomorrow, so you better go back to your room and think about something. So I said, how long am I supposed to speak? So she gave me a very specific time and said 12 minutes. So those, some of you I know have been telling me you've heard me speak in, you know, you've heard a couple of my talks from various sides. You know that I go all over the place. I don't finish any story in 12 minutes. So I said, this is another impossible task. I'm not going to be able to speak in 12 minutes. She said, you'll do it, go. So I went back to my room and I called my husband and I told him, he was still in the US, and I said, you know, they've really thrown a surprise at me, and my father and my mother were saying, you can't just go and stand there and speak like you normally do, you better prepare and all that. Many, many years ago, Swami had told me that not to prepare for the silent talks. I asked her, Swami, what shall I say? You want me to speak about your experience, so many people already know it. So he says, oh, you think you will do the talking? You're just a tape recorder. When I switch it on, you speak. When I switch it off, you close your mouth. He said. So ever since then, I've never prepared a single talk, because I don't want to make life easy for him. I want him to do the work. He can switch me off and on whenever he wants. So I said, I can't suddenly change the rule now, just because I'm speaking in Sai Kulvan. So I just sat all night long, just praying to Swami and said, Swami, tomorrow you're going to have a busy day. You better remember to switch it on for 12 minutes tomorrow. So anyway, in the morning, we went up to, they had asked us to go there at 6:30 in the morning to check out the microphone. And when we went there, they had this really tall podium there, you know, for me to speak. And when I stood behind it, nobody could see me. So I said, okay, this is going to sound like, you know, one of our mythological movies where the sound comes from the skies or something. Nobody can see who's speaking. So they said, no, Mrs. Ram, don't worry about it. We'll put a small stool for you. We just want to check the... So I said, all right, we'll have a stool for me. I wasn't very sure. I said, all right, but otherwise, you know, in front of Swami, you can't stand next to the podium and all that. They wanted to have the podium. So they checked out the microphone and I went and sat down. So it was a very strange kind of a feeling for me, because I have grown up in Puttaparthi. Since the day I was born, Puttaparthi is my second home. And I have seen Puttaparthi grow along with me. The Puttaparthi that I went to was a Stone Age village. There was nothing there. Swami had no house. He used to sit in our rooms from morning till evening, till the point when my grandmother had to say, will you please go back to your house because we have to cook now. So this was the Puttaparthi that I grew up. And here all of a sudden, for his 80th birthday in this beautifully decorated Sai Kulwant Hall, where Swami was like the beautiful king of kings with all this decoration, and he had chosen me to speak there. So I was looking at all this decoration, remembering my Stone Age Prashanti Nilayam, where there was no water, we had to draw water from the wells, there was no light, we used to sit with a lantern, only Swami's building had a generator. Thinking about all this, and there was a lady sitting next to me, and she didn't know who I was, because I don't go to many of the functions, and she was sitting next to me. I knew who she was. She was a very well-known musician. She had not seen me in the functions. So she was wondering who was this lady who was sitting in the first seat like I'm sitting here today, in the VIP row. And she couldn't place me. So very sweetly she asked me, Sai Ram? And I said, Sai Ram. And I could see that she was very curious as to who I was. And she said, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Washington, D.C. And I said, okay. And then a few minutes later she said, oh, are you a Prashanti Council member? I said, no. Because she wanted to know why I was sitting in that place. But she couldn't ask me why I was sitting in this place. This unknown person. So I said, no, I'm not a Prashanti. Husband Prashanti Council member? I said, no, my husband is not a Prashanti Council. And I had decided then and there that I'm going to have a little fun, because I was so nervous, at least to take my mind off my talk. I was not going to give this lady any information. So, a few minutes later she said, oh, anybody in the Central Trust? I said, no, not in the Central Trust. Then, are you one of the donors for the super specialty hospital? I said, no, I'm not a donor for this. So this back and forth thing was going on and I was having a good laugh at first. I'm telling Swami in my mind that, Swami, you have given me a few minutes of importance and I'm going to enjoy it at your cost. So I was sitting there and we were going back and forth and I wasn't telling her anything. Then after a little while, of course, the music started and my heart started to pound because Swami's had started from this time. And he came and went up to stage and sat down and they made their announcements and all the Vedas started and everything. And then they announced my name. I had not even taken a rose. Some nice people over there had given me a rose. They had given me so many instructions because you had to go up on the stage. And usually it's the men who do many of the talks there. So they've given me so many instructions. Make sure you are properly covered. Make sure you stand with your head down. Make sure, so many instructions. So I was a complete nervous wreck. So as I walked up to Swami's chair, which was next, a little bit away from the podium, I walked by it and I looked at the stool that they had put there for me to stand. The diameter of that plastic stool was about 6 inches. So immediately I started to think, when did I last weigh myself? Is this stool going to hold me? Because I'm going to go and fall flat in front of 3 lakh people or whatever the number was in Sai Kulwant Hall, trying to get onto this stool. And they had not only put a small stool, they had covered it with some kind of a carpet, so I couldn't really quite make out the edge of the stool. So imagine, when you're supposed to be saying Sai Ram and thinking about Swami and thing, all I'm thinking about is that stool. I walk up to Swami and my heart is pounding and I gave him the rose. And Swami, of course, in his usual way, looked at me and said, "Yen maatladutunnavu? What are you speaking?" And I'm thinking, I thought you were going to turn on the tape recorder, hello? So, meerem chepte adi maatladtanu. Whatever you tell me, I will speak, I said. And he told me to tell 2 incidents out of my life. One that happened when my children were very young, and another that happened in the US. And bent down and very sweetly touched my forehead and said, "Anandanga, dhairyanga maatladu, speak courageously and happily." And immediately my heart rate, everything settled down to its normal pace. The touch of the divine is such that he can change anything in a split second. And I went down and I said, "Swami, please give me the strength to say your name properly." He said, "Yes, you go and speak courageously." I took his Pad Namaskar. I turned and the stool came into view again. I turned back at him, looking at him pleadingly. One who is within your heart knows every thought of yours. I didn't have to say Swami stool. I just looked at him very pleadingly. "Bhadrangga yekku," he said. "Climb carefully." Now this is no assurance. So I said, "Swami," I said, "nothing will happen, go." So whenever I get a rostrum, I have to think of Swami and his loving protection, whether it is a stool or whether it is an attacker who came to my throat or whether it is my trip to Parthi or Malaysia or to the US. He's there for the little things and he's there for the big things in one's life if we let him be in our life. The problem is most of the time we don't let him do the work for us, even though he offers to do it. I remember many, many years ago, I don't know whether Brother Jagdishan is here or not. He's such a wonderful speaker. It's intimidating to speak when he is around because I know he's so inspiring, especially to all of you here in Malaysia and the youth. As the young brother this afternoon spoke, you're all quite the examples for other youth around the world and much of the work that you adults do in the form of service. I know in the US we all give examples of Malaysian youngsters, Malaysian Sai Center members who do so much seva. So you are all doing a lot of work for Swami. And I remember many, many years ago when I heard Brother Jagdishan speak and he very humorously said, and he enacted this particular thing. He put this whole lot of problems on our head in the form of a handkerchief. He put it on his head. And he walked up to Swami's picture and said, "Swami, I surrender to you. Please take care of all my problems. And he took off the handkerchief which was supposed to be our problems and put it at Swami's feet, took Parnamskaram, got up, picked up the handkerchief, put it back on his head and walked back. So that is the way Brother Jagdishan had given that talk. And I remember that is what we all do. We say, Swami, we offer all our problems, all our good things, everything to you. But then when the actual problem comes to us, we again take it upon ourselves and just say, Swami, we'll try to do it our own way, and wonder why he didn't help. So here I was, standing in front of the rostrum and narrating the two incidents that he asked me to narrate. As I told you earlier in my talk, I usually don't prepare. So whatever he wants me to say just comes out, and I think maybe those are the two incidents he wants me to talk about. I know your theme for this conference is honoring parents and family. Now, I want to give you two of the incidents. Swami, as our younger brother this afternoon was saying, does not ask us to do anything that he himself does not do. Now, when I was in India, I have twin sons. My sons were born in India. And throughout the time that I was carrying, during my pregnancy, Swami was in Vrindavan. In those days, Swami spent most of his time in Vrindavan actually. He would just go to the festivals to Parthi and come back to Vrindavan and stay there. So at that time, he kept assuring me that I will be in Bangalore till you have your delivery, till you have the babies, and then I will go back to Parthi. So he was there, and I was going every day to Vrindavan to have his darshan. As a young mother-to-be, I wanted to be in the presence of Swami all the time, so that whatever vibrations that I could get, the children would imbibe within me. So I would go every day, and towards the end he would keep telling me, don't come anymore, Bangaru, it is hard for you to sit on the floor, because I was expecting twins. It was difficult for me to sit, and I would still keep going. 1 week before my delivery, he gave me vibhuti and said, don't come, I don't want to see you here. I will be here till you have the babies. I've already told you, I see your babies and then only go to Puttaparthi. Go, don't come now, it's very difficult for you to sit here. Vrindavan is very far away from the hospital that you're going to go. If you start labor, you will not be able to reach the hospital. So I stopped and I had my children, and on Ganesh Chaturthi day, Swami sent word the previous day and said with my father, said, bring Geeta and the children tomorrow, I want to see the babies, and then after Ganesh Chaturthi I will go back to Parthi. So I took them there, and we were saying, I don't know how many of you have been to Vrindavan, but now of course they've built the Sai Ramesh Hall. In those days, there used to be a tree under which everybody used to sit, and there is a big statue of Saraswati in front of the college hostel, and we used to park our cars there. So my husband and I, each of us was carrying a baby. My mother was standing next to me. It was Ganesh Chaturthi, bhajan was going on. Swami came out for darshan. It was a very windy day. And as he came out of the gate in Vrindavan, from a distance he saw me standing outside with the children and said, get into the car from there, because it was very windy. But I didn't want to get into the car when Swami was coming, so I continued to hold the children. My husband was holding a baby, I was holding one. And Swami came and said, get into the car, it's very windy. So very reluctantly we got into the back seat, and Swami got into the driver's seat of the car. And he turned around and looked at the babies and blessed them and put vibhuti on their forehead and everything. Now what had happened was, while Swami was walking towards our car from that gate, my mother, who was an anxious mother, I'm sure all mothers recognize this, they're always anxious for their children. Though I had had babies, my mother was still my mother, and she was standing next to me and said, when Swami comes near you, don't forget to ask him to name the babies. Don't forget to ask to name the babies. Swami had told me he would. So I was very irritated at that moment with my mother. And Swami was coming straight at us, so I didn't want to frown at my mother in front of Swami. So with a very artificial smile on my face, I said, stop telling me to ask him now on the street. Stop telling me to ask him to name the babies on the street. Now it was not the street, we were in Vrindavan compound and the bhajans were going on, but in my head, if Swami was going to name my babies, he was going to do it in the interview room, not on the street. So I said, stop asking me to ask him to name the kids on the street. And my mother said, no, he's going away to Puttaparthi, ask him. She was very anxious. So as Swami came, he said, get into the car, and he got into the front seat driver's seat, turned around, put vibhuti and said, road lo nee pillaలకు నేను పేరు పెట్టను. I'm not going to name your babies on the street. You see, when we sing our bhajans, when we say our Ashtotram, Sarvantaryami we say without understanding the meaning of the word. Every moment and every second of the day He is with us. He is with us now, He is with us always, and we forget that. Because if we remember that all the time, the quality of our life would change. It would be very difficult to be rude, just like it was hard for me to be rude in front of him, to my mother. It would be very difficult to be rude in front of Swami, unkind in front of Swami, not compassionate in front of Swami, but we forget. So he said, you come to Puttaparthi in the 3rd month, I will name them. And we went to Puttaparthi, just as Swami said, as the children were going to turn 3 months. And he had already informed the accommodation people, because my father's room is on the 2nd floor, the one that Swami has given him. So he told them to give her the room on the ground floor, 2 rooms, because she cannot carry 2 children upstairs all the time, up and down. So by the time I went there, made arrangements for the rooms and everything. And I went and sat in darshan, and Swami said, "Oh, you came? Tomorrow morning at 9:30, at 7:30 before the budget, I will do the Namakarana. You be ready," he told me. So we were very ready, and that morning he named my children. He has named them Arun and Varun. And he named them, and very sweetly, in fact, one of my friends who had visited me, a Sai devotee who had visited me in the hospital, had brought me one of those milestone books that you get for babies. You know, you can note down every milestone of the baby. She had given me that. And I just put it away, and she said, "Geeta, if you go to Puttaparthi for Swami to name your children, don't forget to take the book. Maybe he will write the name of the children in the book." It had never occurred to me. So I had taken the books with me. And Swami asked me, "What are these 2 books?" So I said, "Swami, these are the books to write down as the child grows, all the different milestones in the baby's life." He looked at it, and in the first page, it says, you know, the list it gives is father's name, mother's name, godfather's name, godmother's name, and the baby's name. And Swami took the pen from me and said, "Give, I want to write." And he has written my children's name, Aruna, and signed "with love from Swami" next to the word Godfather. And we did that for both of the children, Varuna and Aruna. In fact, when they got married, he got them married in Prashanthi Nilayam, and he asked me, "Do you still have the book?" I'm their godfather. See, I'm getting them married also. So that is how Swami's memories. Anyway, so in this interview, he gave me a beautiful beautiful message that day. He asked me, "You have become a new mother. You have brought 2 children to me today. What do you want? Ask me, I'll give you." I said, "I don't want anything." He said, No, ask me. I brought 2 boys to me. You ask me, what do you want? I said, "Swami, I want the children to have Shraddha and Bhakti, steadfastness and devotion." He said, "I asked you to ask 1 thing. Why are you asking 2? So I said, "Swami, I brought 2 kids. That's why." I had a very sweet relationship with Swami, what can I say? So he said, "Oh, you want Shraddha and Bhakti for your children? Do you think it is so easy to get?" It's not so easy to get it. You have to work for it. I said, "Swami, whatever work you tell me, I will do." Because I'm thinking I just have to cook a little bit of rice for Narayan Seva, it will be done. Whatever work you tell me, you'll do. He said, "No, you have to be an exemplary mother, and you have to be an exemplary father. Because children learn by watching you. But you have to work very hard. Will you do what I tell you to do?" I said, "Swami, I'll try, Swami. You have to only give me the strength to do whatever I have to do." He said, "You know, you have to bring up your children as though they were your neighbor's jewels." I was very young and I didn't understand. I said, "I don't understand, Swami. What does this neighbor's jewels mean?" He said, "You see, if you borrow a diamond necklace for a wedding from your neighbor, you just want to wear a diamond necklace. When you wear your nice diamond necklace that belongs to your neighbor and go to the wedding, you're not going to tell everybody that this is my neighbor's necklace. You'll wear it as though it is yours. But you will look after it very, very carefully. because you know that you have to return it to her one day. You know? Because if you lose it, your neighbor will say, even if you get her a new diamond necklace, my diamonds did not look like this. So you will look after it very carefully, much more than you would look after your own jewels. So that is how you have to bring up your children. You have to bring them up as though they were precious, like those precious diamonds. But remember that one day they will go away from you. They will lead their own lives. You have to bring them up with lot of love and sincerity and values, but also be ready to accept the fact that life is always moving. You have to move forward. You have to have detached love. That is how you have to. If you do that, your children will develop Shraddha and Bhakti. So I'll try, Swami. It somehow sounded a very difficult thing to do. So I will try, Swami. I said, no, but that is the way life is. So that, after giving me that lovely message, he said, anyway, don't worry about the children. I will look after them now that you have brought them to me. I will look after them. You don't have to worry about them about anything. I said, thank you, Swami. So he named them. The naming ceremony was over. It was a beautiful interview. He came away, came back to Bangalore, and a few weeks had gone by when there was a strike in the Glaxo factory. And no baby formula was available to be sold anywhere. They were rationing it. You could get a 1 carton or 1 can of the Glaxo milk. You could get 2 cans. And it was very, very difficult for me because I had 2 children, and very quickly I would run through the Glaxo can. So I had told several friends and people would bring it for me. So we went on, managing for a few weeks, but it got worse because all of the business people were hoarding the Glaxo cans and not selling it. It was costing 24 rupees. They were hoarding it and selling it for 100 rupees. Now, Swami has married to me to a man who is very, very dharmic. So he would refuse to pay the black market rate and buy the cans at a higher price. He'd say, no, if we buy just because we are able to do so, what about the people who cannot afford to pay 120 rupees for the Glaxo can? I'm not going to encourage this. So while we had a few Glaxo cans, 8 or 10 cans in the house, I was going through it, few days went by, I was down to my last can, and my husband was still refusing to buy any of those Glaxo cans at a higher rate. My father, being a doctor and quite a well-known doctor in Bangalore, my father said, look, I can talk to some pharmacists and get you some cans. My children were very allergic to the fresh, the cow's milk or the buffalo milk. They were allergic to the milk, so I had to use the formula. So my father said, I can ask. So I told my husband, my father will get some Glaxo cans. He said, no, we are not going to use influence. What will people with no influence do? So here I was with this man who said no to Glaxo cans being bought in the pharmacy at a higher rate, nor would he allow me to get it with some influence. So one particular weekend, the strike was still going on, and I was down to my last can, and somebody had told us that there was a new pharmacy in the other end of the city. We lived in an area called Jainagar. The other end of the city was Malleshwaram. They said there is a new pharmacy opening, and there they are going to sell the formula cans, 2 cans per family or something like that. So my husband said, that I am willing to do. I will go across the town, buy it and come. So he left. I said, please make sure you buy as many as he will give you and bring, because it's really difficult. So he left that morning. It was a Saturday morning. And I finished my morning prayers, and I'm in the habit of talking to Swami in his picture, because Swami always says, don't treat me as a picture, but treat the picture as me. So I always talk to his picture. So I was in a very bad complaining mood. So I said, Swami, you told me 8 weeks ago that these children shouldn't be worried. I shouldn't be worried about these children. You're going to look after them. I don't know what you're doing. You're all the time talking in the veranda to those college boys. I don't think you remember what you said. Because here I am. You got me married to this man who won't let me pay the extra amount and buy the cans, nor will he allow my father to get me the cans. And he's talking about his dharmic duties. But what about my dharmic duty as a mother? That I have to feed my children. That is my most basic duty. What am I going to do? So you better find some solution for this problem. So I said all this in a very angry tone to Swami in my prayer room and went out, and I was just cooking for the day. Now on the other side, my husband went and picked up 2 cans of the Glaxo from that place, and he was driving back home And he stopped at a traffic light in the center of the city. The town hall is there in Bangalore, that's in the center of the city. He had stopped his scooter, he had a scooter at that time. And he stopped for the traffic light. An ambassador car came and stopped also next to him. When the traffic light turned green, the car broke down, the car next to him, and there's an elderly gentleman in there. And he asked my husband, can you help me to push the car to the side? So my husband parked his scooter and pushed the car to the side. And that man said, you know, I was going on some urgent work. In which direction are you headed? So my husband said, I'm going to Jainagar. So he said, you know, I have a package. Would you mind delivering it to some good friend of ours in Jainagar? I will call my son-in-law and make sure that the car is taken out of here. So my husband said, well, if you can trust me with the parcel, I'll be happy to deliver it. So the man started to write the address in the paper. When the policeman said, come on, you people are standing in the middle of the street, move. So he quickly wrote the address. My husband just took the piece of paper, stuffed it into his pocket, and took out a box from the gentleman's car and tied it to the back seat of the scooter. And they both said bye and he left. You know, it was a big box. So he drove, and as he entered the extension of Jainagar, he took out the address to see where he had to deliver it. And when he took out the piece of paper, he found that our home address was on it. So he thought he had the wrong piece of paper, so he looked in his pocket, but there was none except this one piece of paper written in pencil. And it was our home address, so he was a little taken aback, and he thought maybe he had lost it or something, and he didn't know what to do now, where to give this package. So he came home and rang the bell, and as soon as I opened the thing, he said, were you expecting any kind of a package from your mother? I said, no, I'm not expecting anything, but did you get the black soap? That was my main question, because he had gone for that. He said, yeah, I got 2 cans. But you know, some strange, he told me the story very quickly. He said, some strange gentleman, you know, he asked me to deliver it because his thing broke down. He wrote the address, but it's our address. So we brought the box, the cardboard carton into the house, and I called my mother just in case, and I said, you know, did you have any packages were you thinking? She said, no, I haven't sent. Why would I send it without telling you? Then we turned the box around, and near the side of the box we see Geeta written on the box. So I told my mother, my name is on. She said, well then open the box and see what is in it, you know. So it was tied with a string, and we cut the string open, and I opened it, and inside the cardboard box were 24 cans of black soap. 24 cans of black soap. I was in tears, Swami. 45 minutes ago I shouted at you, faster than FedEx, you know. In 45 minutes it was delivered to me. Then I told my husband, and he said he was taken aback as well. This was on a Saturday morning that it happened. So the following weekend we decided to go to Puttaparthi to thank Swami. So both of us went, my mother came with us. And we were sitting, you know, the old Puttaparthi days with the arches on the sand. And Swami came out for afternoon darshan. And as he drew near us, my eyes were filled with tears, and I was thinking, and Swami came and said, when did you come? And I kind of answered, and I said, just now, Swami. Then he asked my mother, how are you? He asked my mother. And we couldn't take Parnavaskaram because we were both holding a baby. So he materialized some vibhuti, put it on the baby's foreheads, and blessed them both. And he started to walk away, and I was still crying. I didn't even thank him. And as he walked away, I said to my mother, Mommy, both of us didn't thank Swami for the black soap. He's walking away now, what? Why didn't you remind me? He said, why? She said, why didn't you remember? So as he was walking away, it had almost gone as far as that camera maybe. And I was thinking, Swami, I'm so sorry, I didn't even say thank you to you. Then he suddenly stopped, turned around, and walked back. Pillalu paal dorkinda? Did the children get the milk? Swami, yes, Swami. He said. And he walked away. The following morning, Sunday morning, he called us in for an interview. My husband was there as well. And as soon as he walked into the interview room, he said, Baba, my ears were burning with your scolding. My ears were burning with your scolding. I'm talking so much to the college boys. I am not listening to any of the devotees' prayers. I'm too busy to care. I made a promise to look after your children, but I have broken my promise. Will I do all those things? I never break my promises. And I listen to everybody. If there is a dharmic mother, if there is a dharmic father and a devoted mother, do you think I will not listen? He said, anyway, the milk is there, you use the cartons. By the time, I said, Swami, 24 only, I'll run through it in 4 weeks. So he laughed and said, see, this is how we are. If you get one thing, you ask for more. If you get a second thing, you ask for a third. And he joked. And he said, no, the strike will be over in 2 weeks, you don't worry, you take the children. So this was the story that Swami wanted me to narrate on that day in Sai Kulvan. And I bent down and I said, what shall I do? I will speak whatever you say, Swami. He said, Pillalku palichindu cheppu. He said, whatever I told you to, how I get the milk for the children, you tell them. Of course, this took more than 15 minutes. I did both the incidents in 12 minutes, which I found out later. Anyway. After that, he asked me, he had told me to tell one more incident that happened in the US. And I think I'll share that with all of you also. After we had been married for about 10 years, Swami asked my husband and I to leave Bangalore and go to USA. Both of us did not want to go. We did not want to take the children away from Swami's presence, from Swami's physical presence. We were both very, very involved in the Sai activities in Bangalore. And we didn't want to go. But Swami wanted us to leave. So he told us, you have to go. He told my husband, by January you go. So we ended up in the US. We were there and we've been living there now for many years now. We've been there for almost 27 years. So, 23 years. And while we were there, it was our 10th wedding anniversary or something, I think it was. And we wanted to go to New York to see one of the Broadway musicals there. So we decided to buy the tickets and go there. It was in the month of December. It was very cold. There is a very beautiful Ganesh temple in New York. So we went to the temple and had darshan, and then straight from the temple we went to the program. And while I was there in the program, during the intermission, I just got up to go to the ladies' room, to the washroom. And as I was walking in, there was a lady who was cleaning the bathroom, a Hispanic lady, who kept looking at me. I went and came out and I was washing my hands. And she kept looking at me. I was a little uncomfortable as to why she's looking, because I was wearing Indian clothes. I was wearing salwar kameez. She looked at me and suddenly she looked at me and said, you India? She asked me. She didn't know English very well. Spanish-speaking lady. You India? She asked me. I said, yes, I'm from India. And so she said, oh, can I ask you a question? She asked me. I said, sure, ask you a question. And I was getting a little hassle because I wanted to go back. It was just a 10-minute intermission and I wanted to get back to my seat, you know. So many things Swami tells us to be so loving and patient, to see him in everyone. But in the little things we lose our patience. So I wanted this lady to hurry up and speak so that I could go back to my seat. So I said, yes, what can I do to help you? So she said, you know, and she started this long story. She said, you know, I have a child who is 9 years old. She's in the hospital. She's had both her kidneys have failed. And we are waiting for a transplant. And I'm like, okay, in my head, and see, this is where Swami says, you know, thought, word and action is never in harmony. I'm smiling at her, I'm listening to her, but in my head I'm thinking, okay, so what can I do about it, you know? The child, hurry up and tell me the story. I'm thinking maybe she's going to ask me for some money or something. So hurry up and get on with it, you know? And she says, no, the child is in the hospital. So I said, oh, your child is in the hospital and you are here? See, we're very judgmental because I'm thinking, you know, the child is in the hospital, what is this lady doing here at work? You know, she should have taken the day off. So she said, yes, you know, I cannot take the day off and be with her because I'm paid by the hour, and if I don't work, I don't get any money. I don't have any medical insurance. And I said, okay, have you approached any organizations? She said, no, nobody can help me. But, you know, I am a devotee of Lord Jesus. I'm a Catholic. I'm from Argentina. And I pray to my Lord Jesus all the time. But for the past 3 months I have been praying for him, and yet I have not gotten any help from my Lord. But suddenly, 4 days ago, when I was sleeping, there was a man with an orange dress. She said, he was wearing an orange dress with a lot of curly hair. And he said, I know that your child is very sick. I know that you have been praying. When there is an Indian lady who will be at your work, you ask her for some booty, she said. She didn't know the word vibhuti. Ask her for some booty. So I said, what? So she said, yes. First day he came and told me. I asked him, who are you? He said, my name is Sai Baba. So I got up in the morning and I thought I had some strange dream. Who is this? Some man with a curly hair telling me to get some booty. And I asked him, what is booty? He said, white powder. I don't know what is this strange dream. Then the second day, first day I came to work, there was no Indian lady here. Second day I came to work, same dream again in the night. Don't worry, there will be an Indian lady, you ask her for booty. So 4 days in a row I had this dream. There was nobody here that I could see who was an Indian lady. Suddenly today I am cleaning this bathroom and I see you and I ask you, are you from India? And you say yes. Do you know somebody called Sai Baba? She asked me. I said, yes, I do know someone called Sai Baba. So she said, do you have white powder called booty? I said, it's called vibhuti. I don't know, something, white powder. Do you have? She said. And my dear brothers and sisters, this is the love of 1,000 mothers. When I had been, this is in the month of December that this conversation is happening. What had happened was, as usual, in the month of June, I had gone to Prashanti Nilayam. Swami had talked to me, and in that interview, he had materialized some vibhuti for me. And usually he says, eat it. But that day, as I was about to put it into my mouth, he held my hand and said, wait. And he took a piece of paper from the windowsill, held my hand and made me put all the vibhuti into that paper. He had himself packed it up into a small little this thing, you know how they do the vibhuti packets. He said, take it to America. So I thought, oh, my husband is not here, that's why Swami is giving it to him. So I put it in my purse when I came to the room in the zipper and closed it up, and I called my husband from Prashanti Nilayam and told him, sir, I got an interview today that Swami gave vibhuti and I have kept it for you. He said, oh, unfortunately I missed it and all that. And when I came, and I stayed for about 3 weeks in Bangalore, and I went back to Washington DC, and I opened my purse to give my husband the vibhuti, and we all wanted to share it because we had not taken it there in the room because Swami had said take it to America. And when I opened my purse, the vibhuti packet was not there. I emptied my whole purse, I turned it upside down, looked in all the pouches, no vibhuti. And my husband was a little irritated with me. He said, you get the interview, you don't even bring the vibhuti safely for me. I said, I don't know, I had put it in here, I don't know where it is. So we both felt very bad that I had lost it. This had happened in July. Now, in December, this lady says, do you have white powder for me? Usually in my purse I have some vibhuti packets that Swami has given or that I have. So I said, let me check, because I give it away sometimes and I don't remember to replace it. And I open my purse, and right on top of my wallet is sitting this little vibhuti packet that Swami had so lovingly folded and put it in my hand in the month of July. And I immediately knew that he had kept it for this lady. That is why I had not found it. So I took it and said, look, this is the vibhuti. I hope your daughter feels better. I said, and she said, thank you. I don't understand what all this is, but I just want my child to be better, she said. And she walked away. And I came back into the program, and much to the disgust of the people, in the dark hall, I had to cross over everybody and get into my middle seat. And then I tried to talk to my husband, and everybody was shushing me, don't talk while the programs. My husband said, don't talk. Then when the program got over, we got into the car and we were driving back to Washington DC. I started to tell my husband that this is what had happened. And my husband, being the practical one, said, did you take her telephone number? Because there are, so many doctors in New York. Maybe we could have contacted somebody to help her. I said, no, it never occurred to me. And I said, anyway, the doctor of doctors is looking after her. We need not worry. He has come in her dream and told her and then made sure my vibhuti, which was lost. And of course, I was very gleefully telling him, see, I didn't lose it like you accused me. It was Swami who had hidden it. Because he was so upset with me. So anyway, all that happened. And the following year, I went back to Prashanti Nilayam. All this happened in December. The following year in July, as my usual time, I went to Prashanti Nilayam. And Swami called me. And we were sitting in the room, and he suddenly looked at me and said, how was New York? I said, Swami. And just before I could start about the girl, he said, no, don't worry. The girl didn't need a kidney transplant. She's okay. So I said, Swami, that lady said that she was the devotee of Lord Jesus. He said, do you think simply you sing in the bhajan, Allah ho tum, Yesu ho tum, Krishna ho tum, Rama ho tum? It doesn't matter by what name you call. The devotion is the most important. So this was the other incident that Swami asked me to speak that day on Ladies' Day. Maybe he felt that these two were examples of good mothers that Swami wanted me to share with the whole public that day. But it is so important for all of us to remember that unless we as families and as parents set a good example for our children, we cannot expect too much from them. I remember when he performed my son's Upanayam in Prashanti Nilayam, Swami gave a beautiful story, and I want to share this because of the theme that you have in your conference. He had told me that he will do my son's Upanayam. Maybe I should give you the background also, because Swami to me has been many different things. He has been my mother, who has very lovingly looked after me in every aspect of my life since my birth. He has been my father, a very strict one, questioning me when I did something wrong, talking to me when I didn't do something right, reminding me to remember to do the right things in my life. He's been a very good friend who has laughed with me and joked with me, and he has been a wonderful teacher in all of this. But the underlining theme in my life has been his omnipresence. He has always kept his promise when he says, I am always with you. He says that to all of us. It is just that we have to be open enough to see him with us all the time. That's the sad part, that we don't recognize him even though he's with us all the time. So this particular Upanayam, it happened in a strange way. I had gone a little bit earlier. Usually we go as a family to Prashanti Nilayam, but for several years during the month of June and July, my husband works for NASA, and they have several satellite launches at that time, and he's a missions operation expert, so he has to be there at the time of launching. So a couple of times I had to go alone with the children without him. That particular year I had gone to Prashanti Nilayam with my sons, and Swami called us and suddenly looked at me and said, when are you going to do Upanayam, thread ceremony for your sons? And I said, Swami, whenever you tell me I will do. When should we do it, Swami? He said, oh, you go to Bangalore and bring me 3 good dates, and I will pick one date. I said, okay, and I was very excited. But I said, Swami, my husband has not come. How can we have the thread ceremony for my sons without the father? He said, oh, he'll come, you tell him to come, he said. I said, no, Swami, usually my husband joins me two weeks after I have gone. So I said, no, Swami, this time he's not coming. He has a launch in July, Swami, he's not coming. He didn't listen to me. He said, Raman Chappu, he said in Telugu, ask him to come. So I was a little taken aback at this. My husband hadn't booked the ticket, there was no plans of his coming. But I went to the STD booth in Prashanti Nilayam and I called him from there and I said, look, Swami is saying that he will do the children's thread ceremony, so he wants you to come. He said, did you tell him that I am not coming, I have a launch? I said, yes, I told him that you are not coming. He said, there is no way, I'm leading a big team of people, there is no way that I can take time off. But don't take away the children's chance. If Swami is doing it, do it whether I'm there or not. Let us not take away the children's chance, this wonderful opportunity. So I said, all right, but I was feeling a little sad that he would miss it. I was sitting again in the morning darshan and Swami came in the darshan and he said, did you phone your husband? I said, yes, Swami. When is he coming? He said, no, Swami, he's not coming. He can't come, Swami, what to do? Raman Chappo, again he said, tell him to come. And he walked away. Again in the afternoon darshan, 4 o'clock, again he asked me, did you phone him? I couldn't phone him because of the time difference. I'll call him tonight, Swami. Raman Chappo. Again he said, ask him to come. So I said, how am I going to make my husband come now if Swami is telling me so many times? So I called him up and I said, Mohan, you may have to resign your job and come because Swami is asking you to come. When Swami says something, it is a command, it is not a request. So he said, okay, then give me 1 week's time, because both of us in our lives, we have done everything as much as our ability permits us. Whatever Swami has told us, we have tried to do it. So this was no exception. If you could not get time off from work at that time, then he was going to have to resign and come. Because when Swami says, ask him to come, there's no question of doubting how to do this, what will happen to my job, how can I go there if I lose my job. Such thoughts didn't really enter both our minds. So he said, give me 1 week's time, let me see if I can find somebody to substitute. Because it's one thing I can resign and come, but somebody has to hold the launch team up during that time. So somebody with that same expertise has to be there. So let me see, he said. So I told Swami, I told him on the phone. He will resign and come, Swami, I told him. The following month. Chala santosham, he said, very happy. So he was very happy that he had taken the decision to resign and come. So I said, all right, then I called him again and said, looks like your job is gone. Chala santosham. So I went back to Bangalore. Remember, he had asked me to get 3 dates. I got the 3 dates and I came back for Guru Purnima. I left the dates in the room because I came late in the evening the day before Guru Purnima. I thought the next day is Guru Purnima. It is so crowded. And Swami comes with the Veda and the bhajans and the band and the whole procession comes and Swami comes. There's no way that he's going to ask me for any dates in Guru Purnima, I thought. So anyway, I'll be there for 2-3 days. After Guru Purnima celebration is over, I can keep that piece of paper with the dates. So I left it in the room. You see, even in the small things, we have to blindly accept what Swami says. That has been my experience. If we bring our intellect into the picture, then there is a problem. Then he will withdraw. So I didn't take, my mother in fact is much more experienced with Swami's ways. Said, did you keep the chit? She asked me as we were walking to the darshan. I said, in this crowd, where is he going to ask me for some Upanayanam dates and all that? Mommy, tomorrow morning after the bhajan and all this, when we sit for darshan, after these 2 days of celebrations are over, I will keep it. Anyway, we are going to be here. She said, no, he told you to keep the chits. Next time you come, you should have kept it, she said. No, he is not going to. See, this is where we second guess Swami. So anyway, I went and sat. That being a very crowded festival, my mother, who was an office bearer in the Karnataka state, she was for 27 years, Swami made her work as a Karnataka state Bala Vikas coordinator for the state of Karnataka. They were the people who first started the Bala Vikas program in '69. So anyway, so because she was an office bearer, she went and sat in the front line, and there were a lot of VIPs that day. So they had made me sit in the 8th or 10th row. I usually sit there in a particular place at Krishnatinilayam, but in the same area, but quite in the back, I was sitting, about 7-8 rows behind. Swami came with the whole, the Veda chanting and the school children playing the band and everything, and he was coming. And right at the place where I usually sit, he kind of paused. When he looked down, but I wasn't there. I was 10 rows behind. I knew he was kind of looking for me. He looked this way. Then suddenly he lifted his head and he saw that I was 8 rows behind. Come here, he called me. In the middle of this noise that is happening, all the singing, bhajans is going on, and how the minute Swami comes, we sing the bhajans louder, as though he's not there at other time, So the bhajans, everybody was clapping and singing, and he called me and I had to cross over 8 rows. And of course, when Swami made a gesture calling me, all the ladies in that row got up to come. So Swami had to say, not you, and then I walked forward and he looked at me, did you bring the dates? You see how he keeps it, did you bring the dates? So I said, no Swami, I left it in the room. I told you to bring the dates next time you come. I said, yes Swami, I left it. And I went so blank, I couldn't remember the dates that the priest had given me. So I said, Swami, tomorrow morning I will keep the date and bring the date. He said, no, I will do it on July 27th, he said, and he walked away. He just gave me one date. I was very happy. How does it matter to me which date? Swami said July 27th, 1998. So he walked away. And I told my mother, he gave me the date, My mother was sitting across from there. She looked at me. I said, yes, he gave me the date. So we both just exchanged the thing. The celebration went on. I came back to the room and I took out the piece of paper to throw it because Swami anyway has given the date. I open it. Sure enough, one of the dates is July 27th that the priest had given me. So anyway, I said, okay, you know everything, Swami, then why ask me to bring the dates? Why ask me? You could have just given me the dates. Then you are telling me where is the paper, where is the date? But you see, he wants us to put our effort. If he does everything for us, then we will be lazily sitting here, Swami, bring the food to me, bring the water to me, take my plate and put it in the trash can, everything we will make him do it. So he wants us to put some effort into our lives. So anyway, He gave, so I called my husband and said, Swami has given the date, July 27th. Did you find a substitute for your job? Like any other wife. See, however many times Swami assures us, you surrender to me and I will look after you. We don't trust him. Because I'm thinking, oh, he's going to have to resign the job and come. So I said, did you find a substitute? Were you able to? He said, no, you have to, just yesterday I talked to you. You have to give me 1 week's time. But don't worry, I will come by that. I will resign and I will come. I already told you that. So we did that and we were there for 3-4 days. On the 3rd or 4th day, I went to call my husband again and he picked up the phone and he said, you won't believe this. I said, what happened? You resigned? He said, no. The launch got postponed to December. From July, the satellite launch, there was a problem in the rocket that was going to launch. There was a technical problem and the whole program got postponed to December. So the following morning, I'm sitting again in darshan. Swami comes. Eppudu vastadu husband? In a very sarcastic smiling, when is your husband coming? Swami, he's coming, Swami. His launch got postponed to December. Teluse, he says, I know that. I said, yes, Swami, he told me. I knew that. I knew that. I know that. That's why I told you, ask him to come. Before I can show you what happens before you realize I know it, so much of agitation, so much of trepidation, he said. And he walked away. So anyway, my husband came and he performed the children's Upanayanam in the interview room. Very beautifully explained to the children the meaning of wearing the thread. What is the reason? All of those he said. And then in the course of that thing, he did it twice actually because I had twin sons. He made my husband and me sit down and made one of the sons sit in the middle. And Swami held on to the thread that he had materialized and he put it on them and finished he explained the whole thing. It took about 45 minutes. What was the meaning of the ceremony? Then he asked Varun to get up and asked Arun to sit down and went through the whole 45 minutes again and explained it again. I said, Swami, you're taking so much trouble, you are telling twice. He said, I'm doing it twice, I'm not doing it. It's not wholesale, he said. It's not a wholesale program. You have to take the trouble to do it if there are 2 children. So he explained again. And then he did a very strange thing. As soon as the thing was over, I was telling the children, get up to take Swami's path. He said, wait, he told the boys. And he got up and he said, come and stand here. And he told the boys, do namaskar, touch your mother's feet. I was a little embarrassed because they had not yet touched Swami's feet. Swami had done the whole ceremony and I moved back and I said, no, Swami, let them do namaskar to you. He said, simply stand, Rammanundu, he said, be quiet. And he told the children, touch your mother's feet. And then he called my husband, touch father's feet. Then he said, third, me, touch my feet. Then my parents and my husband's parents were there. Now, and then Swami had invited 2 other families for this function. And once and for all, do namaskar to all the people in this room. And then he explained, you see, Matru Devo Bhava, mother is the first God. As I said, it is the mother who points the child towards divinity. It is the mother who will first say Geeta Ram to the small baby. Then the father will join in and encourage the child in that direction. That is why Pitru Devo Bhava. Then he said Acharya Devo Bhava. Third comes the Guru. Today I am the one who taught you the Gayatri Mantra. So I take the place of the Guru today. So you do the Namaskaram to me. Third. Fourth is to all the people in the room who have come as guests. Atiti Devo Bhava. So he went through that and then I said, no Swami, but it feels very uncomfortable when you are there for the children to do Namaskaram to me. He said, no, today you are the mother, you have to play the role of the mother. Then the father has to play the role of the father. When the parents play their roles correctly, the children will also learn from that. And then he gave a beautiful story from the Mahabharata. He said, you know, Gandhari, who was the mother of the Kauravas, she was a good wife, but she was not a good mother. Because the husband was blind, she also tied a scarf to her eyes and said, I want to share in the pain of my husband. And if he cannot see this world, I don't want to see this world. And she tied a cloth around her neck, and we all admired her for that. But once a woman is a mother, her duty is towards the child first. Because that child is going to grow up and grow out into the society and live in the world. So first and foremost, once a woman has a child, she has to pay attention to the child. Sometimes, I'm sorry gentlemen, the husband may have to take the second place. But the mother has to focus on the child. And that is what Gandhari did not do. And look what happened to her 100 children. Not one of them turned out to be a good child. So the mother has to be alert. The mother has to be conscious of her children. What are they doing? Where are they at all times? And the mother has to be loving. All of these three will combine parenthood. So the parents have to take the responsibility for what the children become in their future lives. If there is a child that doesn't turn out well, then the parents have not taken the proper responsibility and shown. But on the other hand, as far as where my children were listening to this whole story with their ears wide open, where they said, okay, this is a nice lecture for the parents that Swami is giving. Then he turned at the boys and pinched their cheeks and said, but you don't go away scot-free. When you have good parents, you have to remember to honor them at all times. So that is the beauty. Thank you. You have to remember at all times. So all of us living in this society, whether we are parents or children, have to do our roles correctly. That's what Swami has. So this has been a part of my life. He has been a part of my life. I know that his physical form has left us. And as he was saying, for the past 1 year, we are all adjusting to the idea that Swami's physical form is not there. But Swami at a different plane is with us all the time. For me, I see him in two different planes. One is the Swami who could go and tell the Hispanic woman 10,000 miles away, go and look for your vibhuti for a child, for the child. Then there is the Swami who can laugh and talk at a physical plane with us. We still miss that Swami. I told you that long story about how I had a fun conversation with this very famous musician next to me. Swami, after the 80th birthday, and I spoke at Sai Kulwant, I narrated these two stories. A week later, I was back in Prashanti Nilayam, and Swami called me for an interview. And he said, oh, you spoke very well, but why did you finish so quickly? So I said, Swami, they had told me 12 minutes. He said, but if you had looked at my face, I was waiting to tell you to continue. I said, Swami, I didn't look at your face. It's all right, he said. And then, suddenly, he looked at my husband and he says, you know, your wife, you know what she was doing while she was waiting for me to come that day? My husband said, I don't know, Swami. He says, this lady, she's saying, where are you from? Washington DC. Swami narrated the whole conversation. Washington DC. Oh, are you Prashanti Council member? No. Are you Central Trust member? No. Are you a donor for Super Specialty Hospital? No. All the questions that lady was asking, your wife is saying, no, not telling her that I'm an old devotee, I have come here to speak today. She kept on saying no and enjoying herself, that the lady was very curious. I said, Swami, you gave me 2 minutes of glory because I speak the glory of your name. That's why I wanted to enjoy that moment. He said, yes, did you see how many heads you saw? And you know, it was so wonderful that he said that, because when I went and stood near the podium and I looked out, and as I said, the podium was very high, all I could see was a sea of heads sitting there in Sai Kulwant. You could not make out if it was men or women. It was just a whole hall full of heads that I could see when I started to speak. He said, see, when you just look from the top, you see no difference. Who are they? Whether they are men, they are women. For me, they are all the same. Isn't that what you saw when you stood there? So that is the Swami at a physical plane, when he can laugh and joke with you, who has been a part of my life since the day I was born. And then there is the other plane in which he operates with all of us. He knows each and every one of us. I want to just, you may all be wondering that some of us have not had that opportunity to to interact with him physically. What about us? Does he really know us? Does he really know our names? Does he know? Because Swami is always very, what should I say, likes to confuse us. Because when you're sitting there, he'll say, where have you come from? You'll say Malaysia. Oh, you have come from USA, he'll say to the next person who has come from Malaysia. And you wonder, what is this, Swami? I just said Malaysia, why are you thinking I'm from USA? He likes to confuse us. That is his Maya. So, he says, I just want to share that how he knows each and every one of us. I have a very close friend of mine in Washington DC. She's a doctor, and the husband is a professor in the University of Maryland. And when they got married, she was expecting her first child. And when I went to Prashantinilayam, she wrote down some names on a sheet of paper. And she said, Geeta, you're going to Prashantinilayam. She has never had interviews with Swami, never had any interaction with Swami. She said, will you please give this letter to him? I usually never used to take any letters from anybody to Swami, because once I had taken a whole lot of letters from our Sai Center, and Swami said, when did you become Prashantinilayam postman? So I thought maybe better safe not to take, So I said, I will, you know that I don't usually take letters, I will keep it with me. If Swami asks for it, I will give it to you. She said, okay, I've just written. She didn't seal the envelope. She said, just in case Swami looks at the envelope, maybe he'll pick out a name for me. Like any mother, young mother. I said, I don't know, I will give it to him. If he says anything, I will let you know. So I took the envelope. She didn't stick it or anything. She just put the flap inside and gave it to me. She had written a letter to Swami. I went to Prashantinilayam, my suitcase, I left it in the room. I didn't even open it, the music started, so my mother and I, we ran for darshan. I didn't take the letter with me. I went and sat down. Sure enough, Swami calls me in for an interview, and I didn't have her letter. Throughout the interview, I was feeling very bad that I forgot to bring that girl's letter with me, but I had not had time to open the suitcase. Swami had come out just as I was walking into Prashantinilayam. Swami talked very nicely, and I went back to the room and I told my mother, I feel very bad. This was such a good opportunity for me to give the letter. My mother said, okay, tomorrow morning for darshan, when you sit, at least hold the letter. Maybe he will see it. I said, no, I don't want to hold up someone else's letter, then Swami will get upset. So I was sitting in the darshan line the following day, after the interview, and I had the letter on my sari and I covered it with my pallu, and I was sitting. And Swami came, and again he said, go inside. So I was a little surprised. Yesterday he has given me again his pallu, but I was very happy. Again we went in for interview. And he looked at me, Hey Samacharam, what news? I said, no news, Swami. Yesterday itself I have told you all my news. No news. So he asked me one or two questions over and over again, and I didn't have any other things to say that was new. So I was just sitting and simply chatting, how are you, Swami? Why have you become thin, Swami? So I wanted to elongate the interview, so I didn't want to get up. If you keep quiet, then Swami will open the door and tell me. So I was asking him something. Suddenly he hit me on the head. He said, hey, where is your friend's letter? You think I simply called you? Yesterday you forgot that letter, that's why I called you. So I said, oh Swami, here it is. So he took out these people have never had an interaction with Swami, but they're one of the most sweetest people that I know. They do so much of service for Swami. She as a doctor and he as a professor. He took out the letter and he looked at it. Just for a few seconds he read the whole letter, put it back into the envelope and gave it back and said, give it back to her. Go and give it back to her. So I thought, oh, maybe, she will feel very happy that Swami has touched the letter, blessed the letter. She will take it and choose one of the names. He didn't give me a name. He just gave me the letter back. We took Paramahanskar and he gave us Vibhuti packet and suddenly came out. As I was walking back to the room, I suddenly realized that the unsealed letter was sealed. Now, when Swami returned it to me, the letter was sealed. And I said, look, she had not sealed the letter. Swami looked at the letter, put it back and gave it to me. It is sealed. And somehow the letter also felt a little bit heavy. So I went to the STT booth. In those days, we didn't have cell phones or anything. This was in 98 also. So I went and called her and I said, Ramya, Swami looked at your letter. She was so excited. Oh, did he take it? Did he take it? He said, no, he didn't take it. But he read the letter. But he gave it back to me and asked me to give it to you. But the letter has come back to me sealed. would you like me to courier it to you? Because she was close to her delivery time. She said, no, please don't do that. It may get lost or something. You keep it with you and you bring it back when you come. I said, I'll be here for 4 weeks. She said, it's okay. You bring it back when you come. I don't want the letter to be lost. So I kept it with me. 4 weeks later, we went back to Washington, D.C. And my husband and I, we took the letter to their house. And her husband wanted to open the letter because he was very curious. Why did the letter get sealed when Swami touched it? So they opened the letter and she took out the letter and looked at it and read it, and she said, and the husband was reading it and he said, oh my goodness, it's underlined, he said. So she said, don't tell me, has Swami underlined the name, then I will know whether I'll have a boy or a girl. I don't want to know. Don't tell me. He said, no, he has underlined 2 names, one boy's name and one girl's name. So he continues the suspense for the parents. It could be anybody, boy or a girl. So there was one boy's name, Aniruddha, was underlined, and a girl's name, Samyukta, was underlined. So they kept it, and then we opened the envelope, and inside that envelope there is vibhuti and 2 gold pendants. You see the divine look. You may be all thinking, sitting in Sai Kulban, he looked at me. One look is enough to remove many hundreds of years of sins that we may have committed. One drishti. That drishti of the divine, he just looked at the letter. But so many things had happened in that one look, that divine drishti. Divya Drishti, Swami says, I have Divya Drishti, I can see you wherever you are. And there were 2 pendants, one was an Om and one was a Lakshmi. So, a few days later, the girl, she delivered a boy baby, and they named him Aniruddha, as the name was underlined. Swami didn't have a pen or anything. All this has happened by just one look. And he named Aniruddha. And I said, oh, then it must be the Om for the boy. The Lakshmi must be for the mother. Because you're a lady, you put it on and put the Om for the baby. As though I know Swami's ways. I'm very confidently telling her, Lakshmi is for you, Om is for your boy, you put it. So they put it around the child and they named him Aniruddha. And of course, 18 months or 22 months later, a girl was born. And they named her Samyukta, and of course she had to take out the Lakshmi pendant and put it on the girl. Swami knew what was going to come, and he had welcomed these 2 good souls much before they had arrived on this earth. And he came. When I went back to Prashanthanilayam, the next year he asked me very sweetly, did you give the pendants to the children? Yes, Swami, I did. They think that I don't know them because I have not given them interviews. I know each and every one of them. In fact, a few years ago, when I was leaving to go to UK, it was very nice to see my 2 good friends from UK over here. They came and talked to me a few minutes ago. When I was leaving for UK, Swami had asked me to speak in 6 cities. And at that time, I asked him, Swami, what message should I take to the devotees in UK? He said, no message. I have given all the messages. Only you have to practice now, he said. No, Swami, but still, I'm going to speak in 6 places. What message should I give them? He said, wherever you go, you tell everyone. I know each and every one of them. I have seen each and every one of them. I love each and every one of them. Wherever you go, you tell them. I know each and every one of them. I love each and every one of them. You know, coming to Malaysia is such a lovely thing for me. Because 2 years ago, when Swami told me to go to Indonesia, at that time, Dr. Ravindran had asked me, can you come to Malaysia too? And I had already booked my tickets back to the US. And Swami asked me in Puttaparthi, are you going to Malaysia? Are you going to Singapore? He asked me when I told him that I was leaving for Indonesia the following day. I said, no, Swami, my tickets are booked for USA. But if you want me to go, I will go. They have asked me to come, but I had booked my ticket. He said, no, don't go now. They will call you again. At that time, you go to Malaysia and Singapore. So he knows each and every one of you. He knew when you were going to invite me, even though he is not in his physical form. He knew when I was going to come and stand here and talk about families and parents and honoring them. He knew that I would be here this evening with all of you, sharing a few of those loving moments that I've had with him. I know many of you have told me in the past few hours that you've heard some of the talks on Radio Sayan. I'm sorry if it is a repetition for all of you. But when I told Swami some time ago, Swami, how many times shall I go on talking? I have to tell the same experiences. And I said, I have to tell the same story. He said, not story, his story. He said, not just story, his story. It's an experience, it's his story. And in Telugu he said, Bhagavatam vinte Bhagavatam. If you listen to the Bhagavatam, the story of the Lord, we all become better people. So it doesn't matter how many times you tell the story of the Lord, it is always new and it's always sweet. So you go ahead and keep talking as long as somebody asks you to come and talk. So with his command, I have been doing this now for some time. I don't know how long Swami wants me to do. But I hope I'm able to share with all of you a few moments of joy. And by listening about his omnipresence, you also start noticing the Swami in your own hearts and feel his presence with you every moment of the day. Thank you for listening to me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the time in the next couple of days. Thank you, Sarah.